Hey everyone, it's me again. I'm going to redo a deck profile I did a minute ago. Didn't show up on my camera, so I'm redoing it again. This deck profile is going to be on Madolches for Yu-Gi-Oh! Alright, so I'll tell you how this deck actually does. Does really well in tournaments. Made it to finals quite a bit. Actually won twice. So I'm gonna go ahead and run. This is before the April ban list that's coming up here in about 2 weeks. So I hope you enjoy the deck profile. Go ahead and rate and comment if you like. I'm gonna start with the monsters. I'm gonna start with the not Madolches so far. So of course Thunder King first off. Stops a lot of decks. He's really good for like the big backup. He's a big 1900. Which is something that Madolches need, especially when they don't have a field card. His effect is pretty simple. He's a level 4. Neither player can add cards from their deck to their hand. That's big, except by drawing them. So no reinforcement of the army or anything like that. During either player's turn, when your opponent would special summon a monster, you can send this face up to the graveyard, negate the special summon and destroy it. Good against Exceed monsters. That's what I mainly use it for. He kind of stops my deck a little bit for Magileine, but it's well worth it in the long run. I'm going to go 2 Trags, I run 2. His effect is simple. If you take battle damage from any battle damage, it could be on your turn too if you attack into a monster. Special summon it, face up or attack or defense, however you want to. He acts as a really good mainstay. He acts as stopping battles, he stops other things, but I also can ditch a monster or select a monster in my graveyard, turn it into a level, and then exceed from there. I run 2 Effect Veilers because Effect Veiler. You can run Effect Veilers or Maxis. It's personally your own choice, but I chose to run Effect Veiler because of the rampant effects running around. There's a lot of effects that like to stop Madolches, so I saw Effect Veiler being the better option. I used to run Maxis, but I'd run a Maxi and then, gain a gigantic hand and still can't do anything with it. I run 1 Butlerusk. His effect is simple. If you summon him, normal summon him, while there is a Madolche in the field, you can grab a field spell card. Okay, he's a level 4. He gets plus 500 when Chateau's out. He's a 1500 to start. And like all Madolches, if he gets sent to the graveyard, he goes back in the deck. I'm going to run Angeli when she comes out over Butlerusk. I'm also going to run Angeli over this next card, which is Madolche Cruffsant. He has a lot of uses. He's a beast, which makes Messengelato good whenever you special summon Messengelato. He's a level 3 to start, but if you bounce a Madolche from the field to your hand, your Madolche, then it gains a level and it gains plus 300. So you can end up turning him into a 2300 beater. A level 4, and it sets up for Tiramisu later on. That's why I run Cruffsant. A single Cruffsant. I run 2 Madolche Hootcakes. He's a big one. You basically remove a monster, any monster from your graveyard, remove it from play, special summon a Madolche from your deck. I like to use him with Messengelato. A lot of the times I'll use him with Mewfeuille to exceed into Leviair or Invoker. But he's really good. I used to run 3, but that was kind of overkill, so I only run 2 now. There's too many ways to special summon him from the deck, so that's why I chose to run 2. I run the staple 3 Magilines. You must have 3 Magilines. She's the Stratos of the deck. Get any Madolche level 4 or lower? No. Any Madolche. Alright, so you can set it up for pudding sets if you want to. I run 3 Magilines. I run 3 Messengelato, always run 3. These get used quite often. These are probably the most used Madolche other than Mewfeuille. His effect is simple. If you get special summoned and there's another beast type Madolche on the field, you can get a field spell or a spell or trap card that has Madolche on it. So really useful for getting Chateaus and tickets out. That's why I run 3. I run 3 Mewfeuilles. Absolutely must run 3. She is level 3 with 500, plus 500 boost when Chateau's out. She's the marauding captain of the deck, so special summon one, special summon another, say Messengelato or Hootcake, and you're off. A lot of people like to stop her, that's why I run 3. Effect Veiler stops this card, Fiendish Chain stops this card. But if you know that your opponent's not going to stop it, or if it's your first turn, it's one card that you might want in your hand. Alright, that's monsters. So the monster count is 18. It should be a little less, especially in this back row heavy format that we're dealing with. And speaking of back row, we're going to go into spells. 3 MSTs, because MST, you should probably be running 3 unless you're running Night Beam, then run 2. But I run 3. 1 Dark Hole, because it's limited to 1. 2 double summons. I main deck these, and this actually comes in very useful because we don't have Ultimate Offering anymore. But the trick is to try to get as much of a hand as possible, and with Madolches you can because of Chateau's effect. Then I can double summon into an Exceed monster if I want to. I end up, a lot of the times during, especially this last tournament, I ended up Magilining and then getting a Mewfeuille, double summon, and then Mewfeuille and Messengelato, or Mewfeuille and Hootcake. And I'm off. It's hard to stop that after, if you couldn't stop it already. I run 2 tickets. I don't really run more than 2. I used to run 3, but I figured out that I need double summons. So that's why I run 2. Ticket's fairly easy. If a Madolche is returned from your side of the field or graveyard to your hand or main deck, add a Madolche monster from your deck to your hand. That's mostly what this is used for. The other effect is if I had a fairy, if I have a fairy Madolche, which Tiramisu is, instead of adding it to my hand from my deck, I can special summon it. Special summon into a Hootcake, and there I'm blasting off. Most of the time, I actually special summon Magileine because I didn't really have any other option, and she just became a 1900 meter after that. So 2 tickets, only 2. And of course, 3 Madolche Chateaus. This is your main field spell card. You want to run 3. There's no reason why you shouldn't run 3. When this card is activated, shuffle all Madolche monsters in your graveyard into your deck. That's the first effect. It sucks up if you have Ticket on the field, and then you can grab a Madolche monster out of your deck. All Madolches get 500. It's good because a lot of these are above the 1500 mark after this comes out. So you have a 2000 beater or 1900 beaters everywhere. Okay. Oh, and the last part, if it's going to go from the graveyard to your deck, you can add that to your hand instead. That's the big thing about Chateau that people misinterpret a lot, or they don't pay attention to because they're destroying monsters left and right, but next thing you know, I have a gigantic hand of monsters that I can reuse. So run 3 Chateaus. Alright, 3. Spell count is 11, so I run 11 spells, which means the rest of the deck is traps. And I run, of course, Compulse, Solemn Warning, Torrential Tribute, and Bottomless Trap Hole. Must have for almost any deck. These are staples now. Torrential never used to be a staple. I could run Transmigration Prophecy over Torrential Tribute, but I chose not to this weekend simply because the monster destruction is a must. Especially with this deck, it doesn't have a lot of it. But who needs it when you have Tiramisu? So I run the 4 big ones. I run a single Madolchepalooza because it does almost the same thing as double summon, except for it special summons as many Madolches in your hand. So if they thought I only had 1 monster in the field, next thing you know I have 5. It can be used defensively, because if you have Chateau on the field and they're starting to attack, and then you put the Palooza into a bunch of monsters, it goes back into your hand. The end of this effect is shuffle all Madolche monsters that were special summoned by this effect into your deck. So Ticket doesn't work, nothing really happens after that, you just go back into your deck. But it gives you a free shuffle, so that's always good if you're ending out out of a crappy hand. I run 2 Deep Prisons. You could run, I'm not entirely sure if I should, but no, just Deep Prisons. When an opponent's monster attacks, remove it. Good against like Stardust, good against a lot of archetypes out in the field right now. This one was especially effective against Dark World so like Graphics couldn't come back. 2 Mirror Forces, because Mirror Force. It's limited to 2 right now. I'm not sure how April's going to look, but Mirror Force. Again, Monster Destruction is a must. And finally, 2 Fiendish Chains. These used to be Forbidden Lances. I chose to use Fiendish Chains instead because Lance only worked half the time, whereas Fiendish Chain actually worked most of the time. Alright, that's main deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the trap count is also 11. I'm going to go into side deck. I won't really explain too much about the side deck because it really wasn't complete, but it did help a lot. I'll show you the first few that do help a lot. Enemy Controller helped. Pod Duality helped. Especially for like, because the deck doesn't special summon a lot. Pod Duality. Book of Moon helped, both offensively and defensively. You can use Book of Moon on your Magileine, so if you flip summon it, you can still use her effect. I run 1 Dress in the side deck because I don't have a lot of room. Or I actually do have room, it's just I chose to not think about my side deck as much as I should. I run 1 Safe Zone in the side deck. I should run 2, I don't have a second one. But Safe Zone's a really good card to have, especially if you're on the defensive. Keep your Mewfeuille there. Okay. I run a spare Madolchepalooza in case I'm having a lot of big hands. I run a single Gold Sark. This honestly shouldn't be in there. I run a single Gores. Sometimes Chateau and Ticket or Fiendish Chain might actually get in the way, but Gores actually helped out this past weekend. I run 2 Cyber Dragons. I didn't really get to use them, but they're actually a really good card to have in Madolche's extra special summoning and stuff. On the side deck, this used to be main deck, I run a Madolche Marmalade. She's easy. You set her face down because she's got a base 2000 defense. I mainly use her for defenses. If it's flipped face up, I can target a Madolche spell trap in the graveyard and add it to my hand. So she really is just another. She's a +1 if she doesn't get destroyed. I run a single Chocolates. I don't know why. He looks cute, so he's awesome and he's in a side deck. A Chevalier, just in case I need the extra beef power. He's also a level 4 and a warrior, so it's another target for Invoker just in case I use all of my Messengelatos. Or if I find that Messengelatos leaving the field too much. I run Impudentus in the side deck. Sometimes I'll side out a Mewfeuille for her. She actually has a really good effect. If she battles, I'll actually side her in with like Cyber Dragons and stuff. But if she battles a monster, you can destroy it after damage confirmation. So, and it gains 800 attack if there's no monsters in the graveyard. Which honestly, this deck, there's always monsters in the graveyard. And then I run a single Giant Rat for extra Hootcake summoning. I actually didn't get to use Rat or Princess this past weekend a lot. And I run tokens, just because tokens. For those who play Dandelions and Mecha Phantom Bees and stuff like that. Right. Extra deck. Extra deck is pretty simple. 1 Diamond Dyer because Mewfeuille and Hootcake are beasts. And you can use any level 4s for him. I run a single Utopia because Utopia is really good. He's been good ever since he came out. You know, stop people's attacks and such. I run a single Gaga Cowboy for endgame. Helped out in a couple matches this past weekend. I run a single Master Key Beetle. Now I know you need dark monsters, but this is where Trag comes in. Double Trag and then level 4 and then Master Key Beetle. So I run him just in case. He's actually more useful in my other deck that I'm using this extra deck for. I run a single Photon Papri Operative and a single Maestro. Good cards, very good cards, especially if your opponent's on the defensive. Stopped a Morphing Jar this weekend, he did, and he stopped a Jinzo this weekend, so very much helpful. Oh, right, they do the exact opposite of each other. Detach one, flip it face down, face up. Its effect still goes off, but at least you know what it is, and it loses 600. This one, you detach one, face up, face down, and if he gets destroyed, you can detach one. So he's got a self-preservative in him. I run a single Fairy King because all of these are Earth, and he helps out quite a bit when my opponent's playing straight, I don't know, Light or Fire Fist, and I need that extra push to kill. A Black Ship of Corn, because detaching one to give your opponent one less monster and deal damage is pretty cool. He can't attack if he uses effects, but it helps. I've actually had to use him quite a number of times. Nearing the end of these rank 4s, I have 2 Madolche Queen Tiramisu. I would like to run 3, but there's just so many other good options out there that 2 is actually really all I needed. And every time it came out this weekend, as soon as she hit the field, it was pretty much over from there. Of course, you have to time it right to get around all the back row. But if you know that your opponent's back row isn't that amazing, or if your opponent's just not, they got a field full of monsters and no back row, then she's a good summon. If she stays on the field, it's over. Her effect would be if you detach one, you detach first, so you have 2 in the graveyard, but you can send 2 from the graveyard back into your deck. Chateau's effectively come into play, and you can put it in your hand instead. Monsters, of course, not spells. But after you put those 2 back, you can send up to 2 from your opponent's side of the field back to his or her deck. Really good effect. Does not destroy or anything like that, so it gets around a lot of Exceed monsters. So it acts as an ultimate compulsory evacuation device. And rounding out rank 4s is the next Titan Knight. About to be a staple. It should be limited. I saw one person running 3 Silent Honor Arcs and 3 Exciton Knights, and it was just too hard to get around them. He was playing an Evil Swarm deck too, so 1 Exciton Knight. His effect is simple. During a chain, if you detach 1, you can destroy. And if you have less cards, both in play and in your hand, than your opponent, destroy everything, except for him. And then he can't attack that turn. Or you can, but your opponent will take 0. I don't run a lot of rank 3s, so this will be quick. Acid Golem, number 30. Yeah, big beater, 3,000. I only run 1. Kind of gets in the way a little bit, but not as much as some other things. I run 1 Zen Mains because Zen Mains is awesome. If you don't know what Zen Mains does, then you haven't been playing Yu-Gi-Oh for very long, or you're watching the wrong video. Detach 1 if it gets destroyed. Detach 1 it stays, and then you can destroy something else. If your opponent's smart, he'll try to dismantle it as fast as possible. I run 1 Levier because things like to get removed by Hootcake, and things come back from Hootcake. So I run 1 Levier. This will be especially useful when Angelique comes out. And then I run 1 MX Saber Invoker. Easy to use, detach 1, get a level 4 Earth Warrior or Beast Warrior from your deck in defense mode, and then destroy during the end phase. Now, the biggest problem that I see with this card is that if I don't get to use Messengelato, because he's the only warrior in here other than Chevalier, if I don't get to use him, he gets destroyed. He doesn't go back to the deck or anything because it wasn't my opponent's effect. But I end up using him for a Tiramisu setup. So that is the Exceed part of my extra deck. I used to run Stardust, swapped him out for Cowboy, but that's just another option. So go ahead and rate it. I've won a couple of tournaments with this deck. So. Madolches. This is how Madolches should look, at least to me.